What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Yesterday, some absolutely tragic and sad news just abruptly broke online as a gaming legend has passed away, and that's Vince Zampella. And we're going to go over some of the details with all that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Nintendo with the next big Zelda game, as E.G. Aonuma is kind of dropping some hints as to what it could be compared to. And I also have to go over the new Trails game that's been announced, which is great for me because I'm working through the remake right now, and it seems like next year I'll have the next entry to look forward to. All that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Guys, we're every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, keeping you up to date in the world of gaming with all the news that drops constantly. So if you don't get a notification for a video, just know there's probably one for you here in the morning. And we're going to start today with Assassin's Creed Shadows on the Switch 2, but specifically just Ubisoft in general, some of the developers there talking about their time creating for the new hybrid platform. We can see this though. This is over on FRVR as they were discussing and talking with some of the Assassin's Creed just Ubisoft developers, specifically about VRR, variable refresh rate, on the Switch 2, saying, since Shadows targets 30 FPS and the console's VRR currently only works at 40 Hz or higher, we use a clever workaround. The same frame is effectively presented twice, once in the middle of the frame and again at the end. So the hardware outputs at 60 Hz interval while maintaining smooth visuals. And VRR, I think, is still something that a lot of these developers are trying to work out for the Switch 2. It's still early days for the system. I mean, just not even a year old now, but that is a feature that a lot of us saw when it was first announced. We're like, that could be like a legit game changer, as during the Switch 1's generation, we were used to just lower frame rate games showing up on that system, and even then struggling below 30 FPS. The hope here, VRR will be able to smooth out a lot of frame time issues and just stuttering gameplay, but I mean, you can see Ubisoft trying to figure out ways to take more advantage of it when games at 30 FPS wouldn't necessarily be able to. So something to definitely keep an eye on, and it certainly seems that Ubisoft is trying to be a bit ahead of the trend on using VRR for the Switch. Also, an update was released for Persona 3 Reload on the Switch 2. We can see this over on Gamatsu, as it appears to have solved one of the biggest issues with the game. See, performance mode, that's only available in TV mode, targets 60 frames per second. That was a big thing for this game, was the idea of 60 FPS, and now with this new update that is currently available, it is there as the performance mode. Now, TV mode and handheld mode, so you do have like a performance toggle, but it doesn't necessarily affect handheld mode in the same way, so you'll just have improved frame rate stability. It's still just better than nothing. And here's the thing. This kind of a game on a big screen is much more noticeable as 30 FPS versus in handheld mode. I get all of that. It would be nice to see them try to get 60 FPS in handheld mode as well, but that's kind of where we are right now with this. The Switch 2 patch, though, update for the free demo, will take place in the coming days. So eventually you'll be able to just kind of download the demo and try out with this patch 60 FPS in performance mode on the TV. But for now, if you already have the game and maybe you shelved it because the frame rate was 30 at that rate for TV mode, just know now you should have a performance toggle in the options. Turn that on and you'll get 60 FPS when playing. Oh, and we just talked about some of the deals that were going on right ahead of Christmas here this week, and now all of a sudden a bunch of other deals for Nintendo on the eShop went live, and one in particular has stood out to people because it seems like it might be an error, but then people are saying it's not, and as far as I can tell right now, it's still live, and like you see here over Deku Deals, it's Cyberpunk. So the Ultimate Edition is 75% off. It's $17.49. But even aside from that, a ton of other stuff, super like steep discounts here. Ori and the Blind Forest is 75% off. Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope is 90% off. Unicorn Overlord is 65% off. Ni no Kuni is 80% off. I mean, like Kingdom Come Deliverance Royal Edition, 90% off. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Rayman Legends Definitive Edition, 80% off. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention. One, Cyberpunk, which is a great, I think it's a great game, but a good tech demo on the Switch too. Like if you just want to see what the system is able to accomplish with a game that size, that's a good one to pick up, especially when it's just under $18. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with, a story that like I was out of nowhere. I was just kind of going through good old social media, Twitter X, and scrolling through, and then there's Jeff Keighley saying that Vince Zampella had died. I said, whoa, what? And then we see the reports start to come out, which we can see this. Now, this is over on NBC Los Angeles. It says video game developer Vince Zampella, whose studios have created several of the world's best-selling games, was killed Sunday afternoon in a Ferrari crash on Southern California's Angeles Crest Highway, NBC4 investigates has learned. And they do go into some details here that I feel like I don't need to necessarily read out here and stuff. You can go through the sources down below, of course, go through the report, which, by the way, has been updated throughout the day yesterday. So there's even more details there now versus when I was looking into this even earlier in the day. They do get kind of, it's very detailed, is what I'll say exactly what happened here. But Vince Zampella, again, this was abrupt. It was shocking is the best word I can put out there for it, because, I mean, we just saw him, of course, with all the Battlefield 6 stuff that was going on, where he was making the rounds for the media tour with that, as EA specifically called him in to get Battlefield back on track after 2042. And, I mean, look, Battlefield 6, on pace to just outsell Call of Duty this year. That's a massive accomplishment after what happened with Battlefield 2042. And this is one of those situations where, like, I don't know him personally, and I'm sure many people watching this don't know him personally or have never talked to him, but it's like when that celebrity dies, but even though you don't know them, they had influence in your life because of a lot of the works that they put out there, whether it's movies or music that they made or anything like that. So in this case, with Vince Zampella, quick trip down memory lane, I mean, he was called in way back in the day to make a game that could dethrone Medal of Honor back then. And what's he come up with? I don't know, a little game called Call of Duty. He co-founded Infinity Ward back then, co-creator of Call of Duty, then went on to make Call of Duty 2, then Modern Warfare when it was time to flip the script on that, and then Modern Warfare 2, and I mean, just incredible. A lot of people, I'm sure, will think back to those days as like the peak for Call of Duty, the heights, right? That was it back then. It was like Modern Warfare 2, and then Black Ops. Those were really big time, mainstream first-person shooter experiences that if you were around during the 360 era, you heard about the game, and you probably knew people who were playing it if you weren't. But then after that, breaks off of Activision and goes off with Respawn to make Respawn, and all of a sudden, here they are with the Titanfall series, the Titanfall 2, which many people look at as having one of the best campaigns we've ever seen for a first-person shooter. And then even when Respawn was kind of out of the side of their wheelhouse with something like Jedi Fallen Order, I think turned in an awesome title. And then Jedi Survivor was even better. Had technical issues in the beginning, I know, but the game itself is really good. And I've been looking forward to the third one for quite some time. So it's just like, he's been in the industry for so long, become a legend. And it's just, it was so, again, shocking to me to go, whoa, like Vince Zampella died yesterday, like over the week on Sunday, but like hearing about it yesterday was kind of that moment of just stopping, scrolling through social media, like, wow, that really just got reported. So here we are now. It's just, I mean, a very sad and tragic event that's happened in the gaming industry. And then also just, of course, friends and family around Vince Zampella dealing with all of this. So it's just, I mean, condolences, obviously, to Vince Zampella's family and friends and everything. And while, again, I'm sure many people who are watching this didn't necessarily have any kind of interaction with Vince Zampella on a personal level, leave some stories down below, whether it's on some of the different games that he worked to create that maybe had influences in your lives, whether there's fun memories with friends, or if you are someone who did interact with Vince Zampella or knew him, leave some stories, again, down below in the comments. Just a very sad thing that happened over the weekend, again, but that we found out yesterday in the gaming industry. So RIP to a legend there with Vince Zampella. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo and one of their big pillars for releases. Typically, we think of the big 3D Zelda, the big 3D Mario. So when you hear Eiji Aonuma start to talk, you know, you're like, oh, okay, what do they have planned for the next big Zelda game? Well, we can see this, and this is over on VGC in a new interview with Japanese site 4Gamer. Zelda boss Aonuma shared some hints on what players can expect from the next game in the series, and suggested it might be inspired by elements of Imprisonment, saying, quote, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is the first Zelda title on Nintendo Switch 2. To be honest, we wanted to be the ones to release the first one ourselves, kind of laughing about that during the interview. Still, the inspiration we've gained from collaborating with Koei Tecmo like this may be reflected in the next Zelda we create. As you play Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, we hope you'll imagine those possibilities and look forward to our Zelda. Now, I did not play Age of Imprisonment. I did check out some of the coverage on it. I was at least curious to see how it would turn out with Koei Tecmo and, you know, I guess the big final chapter for the Breath of series or what have you, like basically the Zelda universe we've been in for a little while now, since the start of the Switch generation. But I was trying to think of what he could be referencing here, and to me, could it be Dynasty Warriors combat? Could it be the idea of having a ton of enemies or just player NPC characters on the screen at once, kind of maybe showing massive large-scale battles that are happening right in front of you? Could it be the cutscenes that are constant and take up quite a bit of time in the game to just sort of tell the story itself? Because, I mean, I will say Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, they really did start to get pretty invested in the story in the sense of presentation, right? I think so anyway. So I do wonder if maybe they're looking to take that to the next level with whatever the next big 3D Zelda game is. And then I'm also curious, how early are they going to show that game? Will this be a situation of they show it 2 years in advance, 3 years in advance, or do they really wait until it's out in 10 months, we're going to show it to you now? Because I do think there are some games Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft have where they can show it early, knowing that it is going to come out. The next 3D Zelda game will come out at some point, right? Whether they show it to us in one form or the other, because it can change during development, I wouldn't mind getting a look at the next 3D Zelda game sometime this year, even if it's not, or next year, 2026, I should say, even if it's not coming out till 2028. If they just start to plant the seeds for the future and what the Switch 2's, I guess, path forward is going to be, I wouldn't mind having that at least in front of us. Some games are coming out a bit sooner, and then some games you have to look forward to over the next year or two with coverage and interviews and, of course, all kinds of speculation. It is Zelda after all. Next up, let's talk about Trails in the Sky, specifically the next chapter. Now, I'm playing the first chapter, the remake right now for Trails in the Sky, and I am currently 25 hours in. I told you guys, it's gonna be a bit of a slow burn on this one, but I have played like a solid 5 or 6 hours over the course of the last 2 days. So I'm starting to ramp up a bit with this game because you get past a certain point and then it starts to be like, okay, now you're setting off the adventure and things really start to pick up from there. So even though I'm doing a lot of the side quests, which at times can be kind of mundane tasks, kind of that slice of life sort of adventure part with the side quests, I am enjoying the characters and the world that's being presented. So basically I'm trying to say the Trails of series, like the fans out there who've been telling me I should play this, I'm starting to get it. I am. I know the journey is long and it will take forever, but I'm at least starting to see the vision right now. So when I did see this right here, you can see over on Gematsu, where they say Falcom has officially announced Trails in the Sky second chapter, a full remake of The Legend of Heroes, Trails in the Sky SC, and the sequel to first chapter. It'll launch for PlayStation 5, Switch 2, Switch, and PC via Steam in fall 2026 worldwide. So it's just going to launch all at once, which is great. I mean, look, Falcom has had staggered release in the past. Seems like they're trying to get more on track of we're doing big global releases. And it does seem that Trails in the Sky first chapter has actually been selling pretty well for them. Like, they're pretty happy about it right now. So, of course, why wouldn't they follow it up? This is pretty quick, though, and I'll tell you this, okay? I read this. I said, you know what? I'm not done with first chapter yet, so I need to kind of stay away from some of the coverage. Like, I saw the initial key art for it. I said, that feels like if I go too much further, I'm going to see things that might spoil what I'm playing through right now with first chapter. Right? I feel like I'm about halfway through the game right now. I know people are saying it's 80 hours. I don't know if I'm going to 100% the game necessarily, but I'll go through and do a large amount of the side quests and then, of course, do the main storyline and stuff. So I'm thinking 50 to 60 hours is what it'll take me to get through it. So I don't necessarily want to start looking through all the coverage for second chapter before I get done first chapter. But I will say now that I know, oh wow, second chapter is actually coming out next year, it does make me want to go through this game even more because now I know that there will be a continuation and it won't be a situation of, do I go back and play the original one to find out what happens next? No, I can hang out and wait for the remake, apparently happening a year from now. So really cool stuff. Good news, of course, for all the Trails fans out there hoping to see more of these games, getting these kinds of remakes, and getting a bigger stage even for a series that people have been swearing by for, man, definitely years, maybe decade plus. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Xbox with their Xbox Wraps. Now, at the end of the year, typically, a lot of these companies, and it'll be like Spotify, YouTube, Sony, Nintendo, whoever, they'll do some kind of Wrapped where they'll go back through your entire year and line up a bunch of random stats, and then just to kind of show how much time you I mean, kind of wasted on their platform, but you get the idea. It's like, here's what you really enjoyed. We'll give you a fun little title and just other random little things to throw up in front of you there. It's fun to have it, just to have a look back on the entire year. Well, it seems that Xbox is not doing that, and it was kind of weird when we started to hear about why. This you can see over on Windows Central. And they say next year will kick off a confluence of major anniversaries, not just for Xbox, but some of its subsidiary properties too. Xbox is having its 25th anniversary alongside Halo itself, which that's exciting. Blizzard is also having its 35th anniversary, and Bethesda is having its 40th anniversary too. Xbox was launched as a brand on November 15th, 2001. Blizzard launched February 1991, and Bethesda launched in June 1986, ironically sharing a 40th anniversary with apparently Jez Gordon. There you go. As such, a lot of the marketing budget, quote unquote, that would have typically been allocated to something like an Xbox Wrapped is being poured into efforts to celebrate these major milestones for Xbox, its brand, and some of its games. Okay, they say, for sure, I'm told Microsoft has big plans to celebrate Xbox's 25th anniversary in 2026, which is why you've seen some decreased activity for Xbox community events in 2025. Some of that budget was moved through to next year to accommodate. Now, I will say this. We get all the way through 2026. We get into 2027. We're probably not going to remember that there wasn't an Xbox Wrapped for 2025 if indeed they do have a bunch of cool things happening in 2026. But in the moment, it just sounds ridiculous to be like, Microsoft just couldn't swing it this year. That Xbox Wrapped, it was a little too much for the checkbook. I know, it's strange. I guess it does fall into their marketing budget because it is the idea of just showing you and trying to put in front of the customer like, hey, this is all the cool stuff you played. And here, by the way, whenever you go through Wrapped, they then give you a list of games that maybe you would enjoy. And yeah, that would be kind of marketing to show you games that you should then buy. But it's just strange that Xbox is not going to do Wrapped seemingly for 1 year, because I would assume that they will do an Xbox Wrapped for 2026, considering that's a big anniversary and they want to do a whole timeline and like, here's all the cool stuff that came out. And I have a feeling they'll have one then. It's just like this weird gap year, apparently, where they couldn't front the money, despite, I'm sure, plenty of people posting all kinds of images of the stock market and how their chart is looking for Microsoft over on social media. But there we are. If you're wondering where Xbox Wrapped was, it's not happening because they have to push the marketing budget to next year when we can get that big Halo anniversary. So in a way, maybe for me, it'll be worth it. We'll see how they treat Halo when we get there. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday. That is Game of the Year Madness Day 6, Shinobi Art of Vengeance versus Absalom. Okay, I did not play Absalom. I've not played that at all. I did play Shinobi Art of Vengeance. I really enjoyed it. People were saying Absalom was pretty good, though. I mean, I saw a lot of comments that were like, that was an awesome game, really enjoyed it. Someone was saying they hung out with their friend for like 2 days playing all the way through it together, and it was an awesome experience. That's just one of the games I haven't gotten around to. It's just, there were a lot of games that came out in 2025, but Shinobi Art of Vengeance, I did 100% the game, and I fully recommend it to everyone. So Shinobi does move on, but I will say, one of the big reasons that I think Game of the Year Madness is particularly interesting is because you'll run into games that you've not heard about before, or maybe you forgot, like I did with Absalom, and you're like, oh yeah, that was one of the top 32 rated games of 2025. So despite it losing, maybe I'll go back and check it out at some point when I get a chance. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from David, who says, Hell Is Us was pretty great. I don't consider it a traditional open world. It's more of a collection of small hubs, but I enjoyed my time with the game. It reminded me of a Remedy game. Interesting. I assume you mean kind of the atmosphere around the game, but this is a game that I look at and I go, okay, $20. Like when it gets down to $20, I might make the move on it. I'll look at games that I feel like, for me, will be a good 7 out of 10 experience. And I don't write those games off, because there are high points in those games or some things that I think are very interesting about them, but it doesn't necessarily hit the quality or the high highs across the board that we get with some masterpiece, quote unquote, games, like, the 9s and the 10s and stuff. But I do think there's a place for a very enjoyable 7 out of 10 for the right price. So I don't write them off at all. I just kind of hang out and wait and see where the sales take them, in the future. And I think Hell Is Us is going to be a game that I'll be able to grab physically at some point in the future for $20. From what I've seen so far, it's not quite there. I've seen some sales for it that brought it down to like $30-ish. So Getting closer. That was for digital. I'm waiting for a new physical version to be on Amazon marked down for that nice $19.99. And at that point, I will definitely click buy it now. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you want to hear a bit about how Valve's recent move could affect the Steam machine, especially going into 2026 with its pricing. I talked about that in a video, and I'll leave it right below. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.